What's up, guys? Welcome back to Inside Out Precision. Got 3 topics today, but before I want to get into those, I wanted to let you guys know about the hats. So you may have seen me wearing these in the last couple videos, and recently we did a short run just to see how they sold. So we have 50 of these. We have 25 in the black. It's got the Inside Out Precision logo on there, and we have 25 in a heather gray with a white back. Again, we only have 50 of these. We're selling them on Instagram. So what you need to do, if you're not already following Instagram, is go over to Instagram, give us a follow, shoot us a DM with your preference of the hat, and just say, hey, I'm interested in buying a hat. Can you please send me the link? And we will send you the PayPal link. At that time, just let us know what color you want, and we'll get your shipping info off the PayPal link and ship you a hat. So if you want to support the channel, Inside Out Precision Hats, you can do that. Hopefully more merch is coming soon. I know that this style of hat, the Richardson 112, is like really backed up right now. So we put another order in for more, but it's probably gonna be a couple weeks before we see them. So if you want one now, hop over to Instagram, shoot us a DM, and we will send you the link. So now that we have that out of the way, 3 things I wanna talk today about. One is stabilizer placement. So this V-bar here, a lot of bows now have an option to mount them you know, like standard, so coming off the front of the bow by the front stabilizer, or you have the rear mounting hole down lower here. And you see a lot of people running them down low. I think it's probably more common, but we're gonna go over what the difference is there and maybe the pros and cons of each. We're also gonna go over stabilizer weight. And this is for whether it's a hunting setup or a target setup. Obviously this is my target bow, but the same concept is gonna apply. How much weight is too much weight, what you're looking for with the weight that you're putting on there, and then, you know, kind of building your shot around that. And then the third thing is going to be developing muscle memory. And this is gonna go kind of along with some of the target panic conversations that I've had before, but really this was prompted by me getting kind of injured. I pinched a nerve in my kind of between my rhomboid and my spine, like in my shoulder and my rear trap right here, and couldn't shoot for like 3.5 weeks. Like every time I'd try, it would start spazzing, my arm would start tingling. It's just not a good deal. And so recently I got the okay from physical therapist to start shooting again, and oh boy, it was rough after not shooting for that long. So anyway, I'm gonna kind of go over what I've been doing. Today was actually my first day shooting a full round on a scoring face. It went pretty well. So first thing we're gonna do is talk about stabilizer placement. So as you can see this is my TRX 36 here. You can see I have it coming off the sidebar mount that's mounted on the front of the bow that my front bar and my rear bar are mounted on. Now I have run it down here as well. The difference between the two is the way that it puts pressure into your grip. So the same amount of weight at the same angle in these 2 different places will put a different, almost like a different pitch, like the way that grip sits up into your hand or wants to flatten out against your hand will feel different. Now I ran it down here for a long time. What I like about down low here is that it gives it a really low center of gravity, which generally speaking is a good thing on a bow. What I didn't like about it is it seemed like, so I shoot this crisp B-Rail grip here, and it seemed like when it was down there, it wanted to make the bow, like I felt like I needed to put more heel pressure into it, and it wasn't just my natural positioning of my hand. When it was down low like that, it felt like my grip, if my hand was in a natural position, it felt like it was kind of a high wrist. I'm trying to get a good angle here. So instead of being, you know, palm all the way against it, I felt like I was kind of a high wrist almost, because the way that weight was making that bow want to sit, I felt like I had this high wrist, and then that creates kind of a pivot point. You know, that's one reason you don't see a lot of people shoot a high wrist like this, is because when I don't have my palm firmly on that grip, it creates a pivot point, and it's really easy to torque the bow. So I played around with it. I played with the positioning and stuff when it was down low here, and I just couldn't get it quite right. So I moved it up to the front here, and immediately it felt like it sucked that grip up into my palm. So I didn't have to work or shoot something that didn't feel natural to get the grip pressure that I wanted. So that's why you see some people that shoot them down low, some people up high, and it's literally a personal preference. There's definitely not one that is more accurate than the other inherently, but one might make you more accurate than the other just based on your shooting style. So that's the deal with the positioning. I've had questions, you know, why are you running it off the front like that instead of down low off the back? And that is the reasoning. So the second thing is going to be stabilizer weights and balancing your bow. So I've mentioned this before in my stabilizer video, but if you want to figure out what the zero balance of your bow is, start with, so let's say you have 3 ounces of weight on the front. So multiply the length of your front bar by the number of ounces on the front. So let's say, you know, we're going to use 3 ounces here. So I have a 30-inch bar. So I'm going to multiply the length of my front bar by the number of ounces on the front. So 30 times 3, it's going to be 90 ounces. And then I would divide that by the length of my back bar. And that will give me the number of ounces I need on the back of my bow here in order to achieve what they call a zero balance, which is where that bow, you know, if hung from the center, would just sit perfectly straight, or at least close to perfectly straight. So that's always a good place to start in terms of getting your balance. Now again, everybody's gonna have a little more preference. Some people like a little more front weight than they do rear weight. You know, kind of a good rule of thumb is like a 1-to-3 ratio for front weight to back weight. So if I have 1 on the front, I've got 3 on the back. But really it's gonna come down to what makes that bow hold the best for you and how that bow reacts after the shot. You know, if I'm getting a lot of side to side movement, generally that means I need to load up my front end a little bit more. If I'm getting a lot of up and down bob, I might need to put a little more on the back. So there's no like rule for this. It's literally just play around with, you know, with that ratio until you find what feels good. So once you have the balance down and you know the ratio of your front to rear weights, then it's about how much weight should you be holding. Now, if you watch a lot of the professional archers, especially any of the World Archery or USA Archery stuff, it's insane how much weight these guys are running on their bow now. And when I say a lot of weight, I mean like 30 ounces on the front and like 28 or 30 on the back. I mean, they've literally got like 4 pounds of stabilizer weights on their bow. If you're kind of an amateur or novice shooter, do not go out and put 4 pounds of stabilizer weights on your bow. You will not be able to hold it up. You need to shoot a ton to be able to hold that much weight. If your alignment and everything is correct, you should be able to hold a bow steady with, you know, almost no weight on the stabilizers, like just the blank carbon bars. Obviously weight is going to help, but you know, for example, right now, and even this feels a little heavy, but I've only got 6 on the front and 3, 4, 5, 8, 12, and 13 on the back. So it's basically a 1-to-2 ratio. Because I haven't been shooting a lot recently, even this feels a little bit heavy right now. Now this is actually lighter. You can see my all thread sticking out here. This is actually lighter than what I was shooting, you know, when I was shooting quite a bit before I got that little impingement deal going on. I think I was at like 17 on the back and 9 on the front. And what that helps with, what a lot of weight does help with, is when you get that pin on target and you've got, you know, you're pulling in that back wall, it is hard to move the bow. Like, it really does settle on that target really well. The problem with a lot of weight like that is that if you bob low or you settle just off of where you're trying to actually hit, it's really hard to move it into the middle. So you got to be a pretty experienced shooter, I think, to run that much weight, because once that bow stops, it doesn't want to move. So if it settles, you know, low 9 and you just decide to try to make it work, you're probably going to hit low 9. So again, it's kind of that double-edged sword. It's like it moves less, but it's harder to move if you need to move it. You know, you'll see it on outdoor setups too, especially like the World Archery, like 50-meter stuff. You know, a heavy bow in the wind is not going to want to sway around as much, but if it does, it's going to be tough to get it back to the middle. So that's kind of my take on stabilizer weights. You know, You need to add enough weight to the front so that the bow doesn't want to do this, but you don't want it so front heavy that it just feels, you know, you're fighting it all the time. So you can play around with the positioning of these bars, up, down, in, out, all that in order to achieve the hold that you want. And if you use that equation, again, that's the length of your front bar multiplied by the amount of weight on the end, and then divide that by the length of your back bar, and that will give you the number of ounces you should start with to achieve what they call a zero balance. And then start playing with it from there. Add a couple weights here, subtract a couple there, just, build up. But don't just go throw 4 pounds of weights on your bow and expect it to shoot well, because it will not. Like I said, those guys shoot hundreds of arrows a day. So that brings me to my third thing, which is once you have your equipment where you want it, how are you going to start developing that muscle memory? And so blank baling, I think, is probably one of the most useful tools in archery to develop good muscle memory. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's shooting a blank bale. So I'm not shooting a target. It's literally just, the bale that I would peg a target to. But what you do when you blank bale is you're taking the target out of the equation, because the target is the catalyst for a lot of bad habits, right? When you shoot a target over and over and over, there's a lot of subconscious cues there that the target is the cue. So, if I'm punching the trigger and I don't want to punch the trigger anymore, usually what happens is, as soon as my pin hits the target, as soon as the pin covers what I'm staring at, which is the target, that's my subconscious cue to punch the trigger. So by taking the target out of the equation, I can then really just focus on just one aspect of my form, whether that's your grip or your back tension or your, rolling through your hinge or squeezing the trigger. Just shooting that blank bale and focusing on that one thing, not caring about what you hit or because you're not aiming at anything. So if you hit or miss or whatever, you're not worried about that. You're just worried on the how, not the what. And I think it's really, really useful. This is my, I think, 6th day actually shooting more than like a couple arrows. And it's the first time I've actually shot a target. I just blank bailed up until this point. And it really, really helps you get back in the flow of things. Like when I first got into this, my draw length felt too long because I hadn't shot in almost a month. Everything just felt odd. And so rather than just forcing bad shots on a target, I just decided I was gonna blank bail. And today, I didn't score it, but I probably shot somewhere in like a 52 or 53x range. I don't know. I didn't score it, but I never missed the white. And most rounds were, 5x, 4x. So, felt pretty good. Anyway, when you do start feeling comfortable with your shot routine, don't just jump straight to 20 yards and start shooting. Put up a target at like 10 yards and just shoot that target, working on that same execution of your release or your back tension or whatever aspect of form you're working on. Start up close. Everything is easier up close. And then just work your way back. So, blank bailing is something that literally the most seasoned vets will do. Some of the best pros out there, their first 10 arrows of the day will just be a blank bail warm-up and just get the flow of things, get the feel of things, get that muscle memory going, get the cylinders firing, and then move on to a target and start shooting. So anyway, that's just some things I had on my mind after I kind of started shooting. I get a lot of questions on the stabilizers. Yeah, I thought I'd just share that with you. So hopefully that's useful. If you have any more questions on that, DM us on Instagram. Hopefully you don't get lost in all the hat orders, or comment below and I will do my best to get back to you. So I got a couple more rounds I want to finish up here. So I'm going to get to it. But remember, precision is a decision. Keep them in the middle, and I'll see you on the range.